it's so broad, it's so diverse that there's place everywhere for everybody.
Welcome to Island Influencers, where we share stories of successful business owners, experienced professionals, entrepreneurs and community leaders based or with influence in the Isle of Man. This podcast is brought to you by Thornton Chartered Financial Planners, because great financial planning has the power to change your life. Now here's your host, Chartered Financial Planner Sharon Sutton.
Today's guest on Island Influencers is Jen Kneale. Jen is a highly experienced dinghy and keelboat racer with a proven track record as a Great Britain laser sailor and now as a race coach. She holds a BA Honours degree in Maritime Leisure Management and has over 20 years' experience as an RYA instructor. In 2017, Jen crossed the Atlantic teaching herself celestial navigation along the way, and after sitting an exam in Antigua, Jen gained the RYA Yachtmaster Ocean qualification. She's also a Powerboat instructor and a Yachtmaster Instructor sail, and the first female coxswain, Manx coxswain, with the RNLI, spending 15 years with Port St Mary Lifeboat. She's presently working as an activities manager at Necker Island in the British Virgin Islands, which has just been during this winter season, since her normal day job is as entrepreneur and business owner of the very successful 7th Wave Sailing School in Port Erin. Thanks for listening to Island Influencers.
So I'd like to welcome Jenny to our podcast today. Welcome, Jenny.
Thanks, Sharon. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. Well, so for the benefit of our listeners, we're recording this as we continue all to self-isolate. So we're recording by Zoom on the Isle of Man, and to hear from Jenny, to hear what she's done over the years. So Jenny, I'm particularly interested in sharing your perspective as a business owner and a leader in the section of sailing in the Isle of Man, particularly as you've been instrumental in setting up your own business, helping grow the whole sport of dinghy sailing from babes in oppies and school children of all ages through to your international competition, and training coaches as you go, bringing together the sailing community as one, maybe, or that's my perception of it. So during this world pandemic of coronavirus, and particularly at the moment, dealing with people's concerns, it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity, I'll say that again, to learn about your recent work and how it's been coordinating a team, hearing about how you've been working together from home. But of course, you're not here at the moment, are you? So maybe you could tell our listeners where you are currently, where you're working from.
Yeah, I am presently in the British Virgin Islands. The intention was that I would have been home at the end of April for another season of 7th Wave. All the staff for 7th Wave are currently on the Isle of Man, waiting for us to be able to open the doors as well. But I have had a winter job working for Necker Island in the British Virgin Islands, and the borders are closed here, same as the borders are closed back at home on the Isle of Man. So it's certainly a little bit of a shake-up as to what we were planning this summer versus what this summer looks like. But we are where we are, and we can't do anything about it, can we?
No, and it seems this could go on for quite some time. But hey, for the benefit of our listeners who can't see Jenny, I can. She's on a webcam. She's got a great tan. So there aren't many downsides, eh? So there are some downsides.
I don't know. The BVI's on the 27th of March put us under 24-hour curfew. So for the last 21 days, I have been sat in my apartment on my own, no going to the shops, no going out, no nothing. Everything is closed. Government offices are closed. All the shops are closed. Everything. The island is under a 24-hour complete curfew, right, and has been since the 27th of March.
I didn't appreciate that. Gosh. So you can't go out. So how do you get food? Do they just deliver it? Or?
Initially, they put a 5-day curfew in place, and they gave the island, I think, 10 hours notice before that curfew went into place.
Ooh.
But I think as soon as there was cases in St Thomas, our neighbouring island, which is a couple of miles away, the borders were closed. As soon as there was a case here, that was it. There was a curfew put in. So they did 5 days, and then they extended it by another 14 days. But in the meantime, they let everyone out to go shopping. So if your name began with A to I, you could go shopping on Thursday. if your name began with J to R, you could go and get your provisions on Friday. And if you were R to Z, then Saturday was your day to go to the shops, to stock up for 2 weeks, to sit in your house and not move. So that's where we're at now, day 21 or 22 or something. I'm not too sure anymore.
It's
curfew
Friday.
was...
It's Friday, Jen. This day, that's
every day is Saturday in the leisure industry. So the curfew was supposed to be lifted at 6 a.m. on Monday morning, but last night there was another case reported here. So we're just currently waiting for more news as to whether it's going to be another weekend of go shopping by alphabet and stay indoors for 2 weeks or not. I suspect it probably will be. So we'll know in a couple of hours what the plan is, which is, in some ways, the 3 weeks was okay. I kind of had a mindset of going, right, 3 weeks, that's how long it takes to sail across the Atlantic. That's a mental mindset. I can do that. And I would really like to just be able to go for a run or a swim or something before I have to get back into that 2 week mindset again. But it's not going to happen.
Lots of workouts at home, press ups, sit ups.
Yeah, I've got pretty strong at doing chin-ups on the door frames and balancing handstands. I can juggle again. I couldn't do that for 20 years. So it's amazing what you find to do when you've got very, very little to entertain yourself with. And I've got no television or radio or mod cons or anything. So I mean, it's pretty basic. But
just the internet, and that went down yesterday, didn't it? We were supposed to record this yesterday, and the internet went down.
And that was island-wide as well. That wasn't me.
Oh, goodness.
Lots of challenges of working remotely.
Well done. I mean, it's... So, look, I think there's valuable lessons and stories here that our listeners can apply to their own aspects of their own lives. I think a lot of us will identify with what you just said. And businesses too, especially currently. But if you don't mind, can we just go back in time a bit and let's ask where you're from, where you grew up, and find out where you went to school and to college or university, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Port St Mary, born and raised, got as far as Port Erin to set up my own business, and still lived in Port St Mary until a few months ago. Now I'm not sure where I live, but I'm here. Born and raised in Port St Mary, went to school at Russian Junior School and then Castle Russian High School. And then after that, I went to college at Southampton Institute down on the south coast. But I was really lucky, really, to be born into a family with strong connections to the sea. So my dad's side of the family, there were ties fishing community and fishing background. Dad was also a champion sailor in his own right. And then on my mum's side, her brother, my uncle Rick Tomlinson, he did his first whitbread round the world race in 85, 86 when I was 4 years old. So that really did start my kind of passion for sailing the sea and things like that. So the influences certainly came from my family background. And then I was lucky to be involved with the Isle of Man Yacht Club at a time where a group of people, including my mum, Andy Green, Tony Eales, Mike Ingram, Brian Cousins, and a crew of people set up the training section to get juniors sailing out of the yacht club. So I was probably 8 or 9 years old when they set that up. So again, it gave me everything from my friends for life, the people I learned to sail with back then are still my best friends now. And it developed into a passion, a hobby, a sport, a career, a life really, just based on a bit of influence from my family.
Yeah, tell them what you love. So where did you go to college?
I went to college in Southampton and I studied Maritime Leisure Management, which is affectionately known in the industry as a deck chair studies degree. But as my mum quite rightly points out, I am one of the few people that is still using said degree for my actual job. So it's not it wasn't a completely irrelevant degree. It was actually really, really rounded and really useful. And I still use stuff from that most days.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that is indeed unique. You ask anybody in financial services how we ended up here. Well, we certainly didn't set out that way. But hey. So congratulations on at least, following a correct path of study all those years ago.
Yeah, I think I had the direction and I had the dream and the vision, and although I haven't achieved anywhere near what that overall dream and vision was, it definitely gave me a direction and a thing to pursue as on the way. So
in the sport itself, you managed to compete at a pretty high level, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, that's right. I was sailing lasers with the GBR team from, I think I was age 16 till I was 18. And
in lasers, yeah?
Yeah, in lasers. So that's a single-handed one-person boat, which is quite a physically demanding boat as well. And sailing's interesting. It's one of the few sports that men and women compete on equal footing, on an equal race course, on the same start line, in the same results pack. There's no split between the sexes. So sailing's one of the few sports that is the case. And until you get to Olympic level, that's where the male-female split comes in. So
no wonder you can do chin-ups then. That's a very impressive.
And so that became a big drive for me. Living on the island it presented its own challenges in that respect, in that to physically get to the events, to be able to compete in the big fleets, you needed to be either living in the UK or travelling there as often as possible. So I was trying to balance my GCSEs and A-levels between travelling to the UK at weekends to compete versus coming back to get my schoolwork done. And money to do that, resources to do that, especially when you've got to move a boat around the country. It's not like you can just put your hockey sticks on your back and go to the airport, get on a plane and get on a bus. We used to carry, I had my sailing kit bag, I'd carry my sail, I had a toolbox, I had on my foot, my rudder, my centreboard, I had bags and bags of stuff. I can remember one day being at Liverpool Lime Street Station, getting all this stuff on my back to get going. I'm falling over and just lying there, stuck on my back like a tortoise upside down with all this gear that I was trying to carry. It was crazy, the things that we were trying to do just to get from there to there, to do a flipping yacht race for a weekend. So there was the physical geographical challenges and obviously the financial challenges that came with that. And we pretty much funded those 3 years on writing begging letters to anyone I knew, companies, offices. I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to get to this event, can you help? And I literally was collecting. People would send a tenner, 25 quid, 50 quid check, 100 quid check was a bonus. And we just kept doing that. And the island as a community, there's so many fantastic people in the island's business community that genuinely support grassroots and young people. Like when I was young, and they still do it now. And that's one of the amazing things about the island, is that the community does come together to help people to go and try their work stuff in the UK. So as well as like trying to train, trying to be an athlete, trying to get to the events, trying to do my A-levels, I'm also writing letters to try and get the monies to come in to fund the campaigns. And throughout all of this, my mum was amazing. She was a lot of the mastermind and the logistics of me going, right, Mum, we need to be here. And she'd go, right, okay, well, she'd have a network of people in the UK that she could phone. Can you tow this boat from such and such a place to this place? Can I leave it in your garden? Can they pick it up and move it from here to there? Gosh. So my mum, bless her, does this constant logistics thing. Yeah. My stepdad, Pete, he lost his boat because I stole his boat. I didn't have my own boat. I moved into his laser. He lost out there too. So the family was really supportive. And then obviously the island community were really supportive. And I was also a Sport Aid Foundation grant recipient back then as well. So Isle Man Sport were helping me back in those days. And actually, I find it a real pleasure now to be able to give back to the community what the Isle of Man Sport had given me in terms of what we've done with Seventh Wave, with the Manx Youth Sailing Squad, and with the younger kids coming through now. So I genuinely feel that little bit of investment then, and at the time I was disappointed because I wasn't achieving the top results that I wanted. I wasn't in the top 10, I wasn't in the top 20, which is where I wanted to be. So back then as an 18-year-old, I was quite disappointed with myself. But looking back now, I genuinely see how that it didn't get the results then, but you look at what's happened 20 years as a knock-on effect of that sport age investment and setup. And I've been able to give it back to the community. And that's really, really satisfying to see that circle kind of complete.
Oh, that's great, Jenny. So what happened? You went to college after that. You got your not your deck chair degree, your degree.
Yeah. Maritime Leisure Management
degree. And then you set up your own business. I mean, when did you set that up?
There was a couple of years in the middle. After I'd finished college, I did a stint with Sunsail, a very reputable company that does a lot of holiday stuff down in the Med. So stint with Sunsail. I sailed across the Atlantic for first time, then across the ocean after uni. And then I worked on a yacht in Spain for a bit, and then I ended up in Ireland in Bray, running Bray Sea School, which was kind of a yacht club there, but they had 50 kids every day turning up for these sailing courses. And so I was chief instructor there, and that was brilliant because that made me realise that actually they're running this template at 54 degrees north in Bray, just south of Dublin, means that the latitude, our climate, our temperature is not a factor here, and I can do this in Port Erin at 54 north. So that year in Bray kind of gave me the confidence to say, it does work at this latitude. It is a seasonal business. It's always going to be a seasonal business, but yeah, that's what gave me the confidence to have a go at setting up Seventh Wave.
Yeah, and people would say that the footprint in the catchment area in Bray, that's one thing. The Isle of Man's completely another thing. So how did you go about building the interest and the support in what is a really small town in the UK equivalent? How did you do that?
Word of mouth is a great thing on the island. And I think because I'd gone into set up a discipline that I was very specialist at, and I already had some good reputation behind me from my sporting efforts on the island. So people knew my name was connected with teaching sailing and sailing to a good standard as well. So I kind of had that to begin with, that confidence of I was associated with the product that I was selling. And then we started off really, really small. We bought 6 boats and a safety boat, and we had me and one other staff member when we started out. We opened in May 2006, at the end of May 2006. And we built it up really, really, really slowly. We were aiming to run youth sailing weeks for youngsters during the summer. That was going to be the bread and butter. And in the early days, did a lot of word of mouth. We printed a lot of flyers, and those flyers I walked around Port St Mary, around Colby, around Port Erin, around all the estates, around everywhere I could, physically putting those flyers through the letterbox to let people know we'd opened. You could now hire a kayak in Port Erin. Your kids could come and learn to sail in Port Erin. So there was a lot of physical legwork and determination and hard graft, but we did it, and we still keep doing it. 14 years later, we're still working the same way.
Yeah, it's a great work ethic. It just shows nothing worth having comes easy, does it? So what? Talking about that. How about what you? I know because I follow you on Facebook. I know that you did an Atlantic crossing, and you did it the old-fashioned way using a sextant, didn't you? And that's a further qualification to Master Mariner, is that right?
Yeah, I think like the Master Mariner is probably a merchant navy term that they wouldn't like us using in the leisure industry. But I am a master of yachts, so that'll do. I got my Yachtmaster ticket when I was 23, my first one, and then I could upgrade that to, as you say, the Yachtmaster Ocean qualification, which basically means that you've got to complete a 600-mile passage, navigating yourself using the celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, and things like that. So I decided to teach myself on an Atlantic crossing because I needed a 600-mile passage, and I thought, well, the Atlantic's 2,500 miles. That gives me at least 4 attempts to get my 600-mile passage in there. So I set off out to sea with 3 textbooks, sextant, pen, calculator. The boat did also have GPS on as well. So whilst I was going through following the instructions the old way, I could then get my answer and go back to the GPS to compare whether I thought we were where we actually were. So between having the GPS and doing the maths backwards, and between having my textbooks, the stars, the sextant, somehow I did teach myself how to navigate celestially.
And was it on the first, second, third or fourth attempt that you did it?
It was day number 8 before I had an actual cross on the chart that says we are here and this is where I think we are. But from day 8, from that point onwards, it did get a lot easier. And because I've been recording, taking all my measurements for these first 8 days, I actually went back, did the maths again. So by the time I finished the Atlantic, I did have a chart with an entire crossing of my celestial navigation line.
So you did the whole 2,500 miles.
GPS line. In the end, yeah. And then I rocked up in Antigua to find a guy where I could sit the exam. It's an oral exam to finish this. So I found there's a place in Antigua on deck sailing school. So I walked in there. I said, I think I've just taught myself to navigate celestially across the Atlantic. You're the first human I've spoken to about it. Can I sit the exam? So he said, right, bring me all of your notes. And I took him all of my notes and he flicked through those and he says, right, come out tomorrow morning. You can either do the exam, and if not, you can have some tuition because you've either figured it out yourself or you haven't. And so I walked in the following morning to the exam paper. And it was a 2-hour exam, which I'd done it in 45 minutes because I'd been going through this process 3, 4, 5 times a day for the last 30 days. I could pretty much do it with my eyes shut. So this is the pattern, those are the numbers. There it is. And then there was an oral exam to follow that about. So there was the physical navigation side of it, but also there was the boat management side of it, of skippering a boat across an ocean, thinking about your provisions, thinking about your water, thinking about your supplies, thinking about your contingencies, weather routing, all of those kind of things. So there was an oral exam on all of that side of your knowledge as well as the written exam. And at the end of it, the guy stood up, massive grin, big handshake. He said, well done. It's really nice to speak to somebody who actually thoroughly understands this. I did the same as you 30 years ago. I set off into the Atlantic with a sextant and figured it out as well. So that was nice. A nice thing to have done. And I just did that for fun.
That's amazing.
No practical value for that qualification at all, other than I can take any boat anywhere around the world as long as it's under 24 meters. But
well, anybody listening to that's going to give you massive respect, if nothing else. So, well done. Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, and primarily I ask this when I meet people in my role as a financial planner, what's your earliest memory of money? How was money growing up?
I have very few memories of money. We like 50p scratch cards from the Isle of Man things. No, really, as a kid, we'd get a little bit of pocket money and that was it. It wasn't really a big thing. I know Dad was in the fishing industry, which was very, very boom or bust, which is probably why that sort of conversation didn't really happen at home. I have very few recollections of financial conversations growing up as kids. Still do. I mean, Craig at Manx taught me to write a check. I walked in there with my first ever checkbook to buy something.
Say that again. You just broke up again. Just say that bit again. I
said Craig at Manx Marine, when they used to be on the North Quay there. He taught me how to write a check.
Oh, I see.
So I walked in there. Yeah, I walked into Manx Marine to buy some sailing equipment with my first ever checkbook. Stood at the counter. And, this is how you write a check.
So how to do that at school might have been quite useful for when you were at school that term. They taught you all about equities and bonds. No, me either.
What?
No, exactly. They don't teach it.
We did at college as part of my degree. I remember they showed us a John Cleese video all about the balance sheet.
Oh,
that was
fantastic!
That was it. Money was something that, and again, in the leisure industry, my income has pretty much always been tied to the weather.
Yeah.
It's you can save all you like, but you're going to have 2 weeks of bad weather and you're going to spend what you've saved. So long-term financial planning doesn't really exist in my life, or hasn't until now. Now I'm getting close to the wrong side of 30. The wrong side of 30 something.
There's no wrong side of 30 something. Just saying.
I'm starting to think about it, but my money side really was more of that gaining sponsorship and funding campaigns and bringing money in to make what I wanted to happen. So I think, I don't know whether it was probably a false economy or false thinking, but to me, if you wanted money, you either went out and worked for it, or you had a reason that people would give it to you, and then you would prove that their investment was worthwhile and sitting in the sporting terms.
Yeah. Okay.
So there was that kind of thing. At college, I had a budget to live within. I'd also go out and work. Job as double glazing, telesales, and various other whatever evening student jobs you could get.
Oh,
so
how did that
I've
go?
always didn't last very long. It definitely wasn't me, that one. I was the one saying, well, if you don't ever want a phone call again, dial this number and get yourself taken off the list.
That's nice. Yeah, upfront.
So I've always had to work for money kind of on a daily basis. My financial planning for me, week, month, 6 months, year for business is kind of how I've been it. And then until about 6 months ago, when I had that chat with you about, the concept of the tap running and the tank filling and the water dripping out the bottom of it. That conversation, as it transpired, was probably the most helpful conversation I've had recently, because I've been sat in BVIs thinking, right, I'm supposed to be going back to run my own business on the Isle of Man, watching that tap on the Isle of Man being very, very quickly turned off, and saying, well, actually, if I go back to the island now, I have physically no way of bringing money in. I can't cheat sailing over the internet. I need people to be able to come out and leave the houses and get on the water. So that conversation I'd had with you helped me very quickly make a decision about what to do in the event of this corona crisis, which was, okay, there is a tap running here in the Virgin Islands, and I'm going to stay right here where that tap's running for as long as it's running, because at least then the money can go back to prop up seventh wave if we need it over the summer or whatever. But based on that conversation with you 6 months ago, I think it's helped me make a sensible decision right now.
I'd have to agree on that basis. Yeah, absolutely. Who could have planned for this? Nobody could foresee this particular, let's call it a crisis of the day. It's a pretty big one as crises go. I don't think any of us kind of had ever imagined. I don't know if you did any Maslow's hierarchy of needs when you were. He did that. So,
I Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I decided to bypass the first four and just went straight for self-actualization when I was young, which is why I still don't have a home or a family or financial security or anything. But I got a great job and I've had loads of adventures.
That's so cool. Yeah, but for many of us, we would never ever have expected to find ourselves on the first level, of food and shelter. Actually having to go and queue up. As you have in line with what your surname is, you can't go and get food until you're on this. At least there is food, but still that worry, that concern that maybe you might have that it might not be there. So that's it's interesting, and how we all work through the tiers up until like you say, self-actualization. It's great to hear that you've stayed at that level, Jenny.
I know I've got to drop back to the others and think about buying a house and all of these useful things. And that's what I was thinking before this present thing happened. And now I'm like, okay, let's just go back to that boom or bust money attitude, one day at a time, and everything's fine.
No, this too shall pass. There's like I said.
Yeah, indeed. And I've very much taken had to take a seafaring mindset to this, because we're under this 24-hour curfew of nobody moving at all. So I kind of, to get through this lockdown of that, I've spent 3 weeks now. I think I'm on day 21 on my own in my apartment. I haven't seen anyone, haven't been out, haven't done shopping. So
I recommend Zoom. It's great.
Zoom's been great. We've been using it today at the O'Donnell's trad session and the Ramsey trad session. They've been organising them on Zoom, so you can't all play live at the same time, but whoever is leading the tune, you mute everybody else, so whoever's leading it, you can hear them playing the tune that they're dead good at, you're muted and you're in your own living room, so it doesn't matter what notes you play while they're playing it really well. So it's great for learning the tunes.
Yeah, it's what you're playing.
And it's been fabulous. And of course, I've been here 5 months without a tune, and suddenly everyone's on Zoom. It's like going to O'Donnell's on a Wednesday from the Virgin Islands. It's great. I'm playing the low whistles.
Oh, wow. Great. What keys are you in?
I got that one's D. I got an F sitting here as well, and then the token strange key collection.
Jenny's holding up a load of tin whistles. Fantastic. Great. I might give that a go. So, I think that was
some of the things that have been some things that have been keeping me going through this curfew, because I'm here with very, very little except for my instruments, the internet, a few books, 3 weeks on my own. And the things that have really kept me going through that have been sporting background, music, friends, head full of happy memories to sit here and reflect on times gone, new tunes to learn. So that sailing and sport have been really important to me, but actually music was another really, really hugely important thing that, again, I was really lucky to grow up with that environment as a kid and carry it through as well.
Yeah, great. Well, so all the things you've done throughout your life so far, what things have given you the most fulfillment, would you say? I mean, you've had quite a few of them, and I think you probably just mentioned them all there, to be honest. But what's the main thing?
I think sport and sailing, probably, because that has given me a hobby, a career. It's given me a skill to pass on to other people. It's given me adventure. I've travelled around the world. I've been so lucky to meet so many different people through sailing, and it is a truly global community. We always joke it's a small world, but it really, really is. So the other day I was at a Microsoft Teams meeting, and I recognised this lady's name, and she's on Mosquito Island, which is another one of the islands here. Recognise this lady's name. I'm sure I taught her to sail in Port Erin at 7th Wave a few years ago. Go back, check my email, there's her name, send her an email. Were you on the Isle of Man a few years ago? Did you have a sailing lesson? She's like, yeah, I did. And you can pretty much guarantee that whatever port you rock up into, you will know somebody in that port, or you will know somebody that knows somebody. The sailing world is really, really, really small. We're all connected by the water. It is tiny. So certainly that has given me an awful lot of fulfillment, reward. It's a life full of adventure. But the other things that have given me a lot of fulfillment have been things that, especially if you're on a boat in the ocean for a long time, are things that you can pass the time with yourself quite happily with. So playing music, learning tunes, entertaining other people, and being able to physically have the instrument and play the tune or sing the song to the ocean or something like that. All of those things are really fulfilling, especially when, like I say, at sea you spend a lot of time staring at the horizon or staring at the sky, and the scenery doesn't really change, and your mindset to it is what helps you. And So sailing and music, definitely the most fulfilling. And then I think my job after that, working with young people, there's nothing more entertaining or rewarding than working with young people, especially when you're trying to teach them the sport as well. So just some of the things we've achieved through 7th Wave. I mean, there's Manx kids now. Teddy Dunn has just qualified for the GBR Fever squad. Ben Batchelor is trying his heart out for the 29er GB squad. Peter Cope came second at the Terra World Championships. Tim Chan has just done his Yachtmaster in Australia. And I could go on and on and on about the achievements of the young people that I've worked with. And that, to me, is worth more than money. It's worth more than anything.
That's
just the impact we've had on those young people's lives has been amazing. And 7th Wave, I love it. It's not a business; it's a family. It's a community, and I think that's very true of the nature of the sport as well. In that, to go sailing, you're forced very, very quickly to become independent, to make decisions on your own. You might very well be in that little oppie in a little bit of a problem, but actually the safety boat's over there dealing with a worse problem. So you've got to toughen yourself up. You've got to think through your problem. You've got to resolve that problem to get yourself back ashore and things like that. So it definitely gives you that independence, decision, like quick thinking, decision making, confidence, and so much more to it that you may not always see. And we quite often attract some of the kids that are maybe not the mainstream sporty ones, but the ones that haven't quite found their sport. But actually sailing, it fits everything, because you can either go down the World Championship route and become a competitive sportsman, or actually you could go down the mathematics celestial navigation route. You could go and be a ship's captain. It's so broad, it's so diverse that there's a place everywhere for everybody.
You could do it all, like you have.
Try to. Still haven't got around the world. Still haven't got around Cape Horn.
Well, I'm not sure I want to do that, but yeah, okay. So look, for any existing or aspiring business owners or entrepreneur even, what would your number one business tip be to them?
Number one business tip. I don't know. I was given quite a lot of good advice when I started. Control your costs. Don't get into a massive amount of debt. Treat your staff well. Treat your staff well. Treat your staff well. Your staff are your family, and when the chips are down, you'll need them to help you get it all back up again. And we've been through ups and downs with our group at Seventh Wave, but we are a family. We always come out of it together, and we always come out of it strong, having learnt a lesson. It's the nature of being on the sea, nature of business, isn't it? You are going to make mistakes. Best thing you can do is pick yourself up, dust yourself down, learn from them, and go, before I do that again, I'll think about it. So you're always going to make mistakes. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Just only make mistakes you can afford to make, I suppose. Best advice.
Quite right. Yeah, well done. So what do you, I mean, we've already covered what you do to relax, but I mean, is that how you keep your life in balance, really, with sides of the music to sailing and fitness, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm probably guilty of working too much and not having that leisure side of the balance, which when you work in the leisure industry is obviously a challenge, because people assume that your job is also your leisure. And actually, when you're working in the industry, that's not always the case. The behind the scenes, back of house side of things is not what you see on the front. So I've probably been guilty of spending too much time working, too much mental energy invested into the business that I've been running. But at the same time, I'm a creative person and I can't help my brain going off down those tangents. But the last 3 weeks of being forced to sit down with no control over my business, my income, my ability to travel, my ability to leave the house, the ability to leave, I've got no control whatsoever, really has kind of given me that time to go, hang on, Jen, you've stopped thinking about work all the time. What else is there here? And it's been fantastic. I think I've had more contact with my family and close friends at home in the last 3 weeks than I had done in the 4 months prior to this starting. Yeah. So that's been great. We've got like WhatsApp family groups going on that I find myself out here with tears rolling down my cheeks as there's something hilarious going on at home. So it's really nice to be able to be kept into that loop through WhatsApp. That's been great. Yeah. Obviously sitting here playing tunes has been wonderful. Playing trad sessions by Zoom has been wonderful. But yeah, I think relaxing, playing tunes, and just I've got a head full of happy memories. I've had some fantastic experiences in my life. I'm really lucky that I can sit here. Yes, I'm isolated. Yes, I'm on my own, but actually I can shut my eyes and I'm walking down the chasms with the rest of you. There's so many trips and conversations and parties that I can recall that this time sat here on my own it's not phasing me. It's been a real nice little journey down memory lane.
That's nice.
And yeah, and it is nice. And you end up with your core group, keep in touch, and everybody kind of it has been really good. Yeah. And in a lot of ways, it's like I say, I've just taken that sea mentality of going, right, well, I'm on a 40-foot boat. I'm in the middle of an ocean. I'm 1,000 miles away from anywhere. I've got what I've got inside this boat. These are my resources. I need to make them last. When they're gone, they're gone. And that's really the sort of the mindset that I've been living in. And again, so all of those rewarding things through my life are now becoming the things I'm relying on to get me through the outside crisis. I mean, this is a blessing because at sea you don't have Wi-Fi, a washing machine, or a freezer usually. So in my mind, I'm in quite a luxury state.
There's none of this rocking about constantly.
None of that rocking about constantly. No, don't have to worry about running out of water. It's still coming out of the tap. So there's, from my point of view, there's an awful lot that I've got here right now that I wouldn't have had I been at sea for 3 weeks. So I'm just counting my blessings every day for the small things we have got. It's a great attitude to have. Wonderful. Yeah, and I think I'm in some ways teaching myself the celestial navigation. And like I say, when you're on a 40-foot boat, 1,000 miles away from anywhere on either side of you, it's really humbling, and it makes you appreciate how small you are, and that we are just a speck on a planet that's spinning through a vastly greater universe, and our lives are so blink of an eye in the grand scheme of things. It's a useful perspective and that's perspective I've been taking to it anyway, is that we are very, very small in the grand scheme of things. And actually what's important now, it's our family, it's our friends, it's making time for those people, it's having a tune, it's doing the things that we enjoy, and it's not running around chasing the job or chasing the career or chasing the aspirations. Actually, once all that's stripped away, what is important, it's food, it's family, it's shelter, and we're back with Maslow again, aren't we? We are back with Maslow again. So what have you got lined up next? I know next, we don't know when that is, but when you and I spoke 6 months ago, you did have some fairly ambitious plans. Is that still something that you want to mention here? It's embryonic as it could be. Yeah, I seem to set myself up with ambitious plans. It gives you something to move forward to. We were hoping to try and build a campaign to put into the Ocean Globe race, which is going to happen in 2023. To hopefully put a Manx entry into that, which is it's a 50-year rerun of the Whitbread Round the World race, the original Whitbread. Would absolutely love to do that. However, with everything that's going on at the moment, I can't even realistically think about that for a campaign. That's 2 years down the line. Let's see what state of the world's in. But unfortunately, with a global pandemic, anything that is likely to be travelling around the globe is probably not going to be... So I'm not really sure on that one. The new plan at the moment is to keep that tap running as long as possible, to keep the money coming in, to hopefully, I was hoping that we would be able to open up 7th Wave July, August. I really don't know. No, who does? If we don't open July, August, then we've got to get through another year, which is going to be a challenge. We'll do it. I'm confident we'll do it. We've been there long enough now. We've got enough. There's plenty of support. I don't know if you've seen the and again, we're really fortunate in that it's boats and wetsuits. It's not stock that's going to go out of date. It's nothing that goes off. It's chunks of plastic we can put in a shed and get out again in a year's time or 2 years' time or whatever. So as long as we weather this bit of the storm, and like you say, storms always pass. Just got to keep the hatches battened down, do what we can. Wear your life jacket and keep smiling. Yeah, wash your hands. Yes, wash your hands. Are there any books you've read recently, or anything you'd recommend to our listeners as a source of inspiration? I read a beautiful book a few years ago, which was called, was it The Power of One, I think. That was a fictional story, but that was a really, really nice read. I'm trying to think what I've read recently. I'm normally really good for books. I can't think what I've read recently now. I'm reading this one at the moment, Ikigai, which is pretty good. Oh, wow. The Japanese secret to long and happy life. You'll laugh at this one. So my cousin Uri, Uncle Dan's kid, gave me this one to go away with on the plane. What's he trying to tell you, Jenny? Yeah, money. Okay.
Well, we'll put details and links in those in the show notes, shall we?
No, not those ones. I think it's something better than that.
Okay, well, we'll put that in the show notes.
Pete Goss's book. In fact, any of the guys that have sailed around the world on their own, and in fact, I read Robin Knox Johnson's book recently as well.
Yeah, I met him. Did you meet him?
Yeah. Fabulous guy indeed. He came over. He was on the island a few years ago, and he gave a talk at Duck Yacht Club, and he said something that really struck a chord with me then. And actually, the way the world's changed recently comes back to this. He was saying back then how disappointing it is that we now make like Big Brother and all of these pretend celebrities is what we aspire to, this virtual reality nonsense, and that's kind of what he's saying. Whereas actually, it used to be people who were the adventurers and the explorers that we used to aspire to be like. Yeah. And that really struck with me then, saying you're right, actually, because people like him who've sailed around the world, people like Shackleton who got his guys back from the Antarctic, the pioneers and the explorers, and they're the guys that are challenged and determined, and they don't give up, and they keep working towards the goal, and that's how they achieve the goal. And Knox Johnson is very much one of those guys. He was the first person to do a solo circumnavigation. He won the Golden Globe Award for it back in the 70s, and his book was incredible. His book about his journey around the world, and again, how you survive, the mindset, the nature of the sea and everything, it's all really, really relevant. But what I like seeing now, so yesterday Annie sent me a video because everyone was out clapping for the NHS at home.
Yeah, that's right.
Dad's there playing the fiddle and everyone's clapping, and we've moved away. We've moved away from this kind of reality celebrity status being important. Actually, look, now everybody's out on the street clapping for the really important people, the NHS, the nurses, the doctors, the health workers. Mm-hmm. Suddenly that mindset has come back of going, actually, who are the heroes here? And suddenly we're seeing who the heroes are, and we're realising that, they're not the Kardashians or whatever. Yeah. So, Knox Johnson, good book. In fact, any of the guys and girls that have sailed around the world on their own, good books for now.
Yeah, thanks. You got a favourite quote for us?
Worst things happen at sea.
That's a good one.
I did 15 years with the RNLI as well. So William Hillary's quote of "with courage nothing is impossible," I think is a very relevant one to my mindset. Yeah.
Good. So where can people go to learn more about you and the work you've been doing? Your business?
We have the Seventh Wave has a website. Okay. www.7 with the number 7 thwave-iom.com. Hence if I was starting hyphen and middle dash. Hence, if I was starting a business again, we would have a simplified name and email. Okay. seventhwave-iom.com. We've got a Facebook page as well. Facebook page has been active a little bit, more sharing what's going on within the wider yachting community, people's stories like Dee Kafari, the first woman to sail around the world the right way and the wrong way. Right. So we're sharing links there. Been trying to encourage my team and some of our Seventh Wave family members to write up some of their own stories about their best day out on the water and things like that. They're considering they're all stuck in isolation, they're a bit slow on the uptake. There's a couple of stories coming there as well. So we're the Facebook page is a good place to start, and then Manx Youth Sailing Squad also has a Facebook page as well.
We'll put all those. You send me an email with the details. I'll make sure they're in the show notes so that listeners can go have a gander and check you out.
Certainly.
But that's been great. Thanks so much for telling us your story, Jenny, and spending time together today. It's been great. Nice. Yeah, it has been nice. Great to catch up. All right, thanks very much.
Oh, thank you. I think this is the first actual conversation I've had for more than 5 minutes in 21 days. So thank you. Do I appear still sane from the outside?
You do, absolutely, completely, utterly. Yep.
Good.
You do. Good. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Island Influencers from Thornton Chartered Financial Planners. To find out more and for useful links, visit thorntonfs.com/podcasts.